Hi again, everybody. And it's my pleasure to introduce our very last youth leader. If you've been with us throughout the CIPE Youth Leadership Conference the whole morning, well, we can definitely tell you that we saved the best for last. Vanessa Chisokula is a multi-award winning spoken word artist and women's rights champion. She uses poetry as an activism tool, and she was selected as a Myriad Fellow in 2019. She's currently a Civicus Youth Action Leader, and she is a co-founder and curator of a Pan-Africanist social movement called Word Smash Poetry. Word Smash Poetry promotes youth participation in governance issues, using art to pioneer voices in breaking barriers between art and civil society organizations. During her time with us as a CIPE youth leader, Vanessa did a project that focused on youth and democracy with regards to elections in Zambia. Zambia had a general election in early August 2021, and Vanessa believes that young people needed to question their role in communities, engage in conversation, and participate in the electoral process. Her project involved producing 10 poetic videos created by youth participants, and these videos are in her youth corner, and I encourage you all to take a look at them. They're incredibly moving, and they focus on youth issues, economic issues in particular, and encouraging democratic participation for many youth that are first-time voters. I'll let her speak more about her project now, and we'll have some time for questions later. Thanks so much, and turning it over to you, Vanessa.
Thank you very much, Ritika, and hello to everyone. All right, okay, so just to restart all over again, my project, Poetry for Peace, Fairness, and Freedom, was centered around the activities that were going on between January up to August 12th, because on August 12th, Zambians went to the polls and we went to vote. And of course, we're now living under a new government. So I will take you through my project so that you can hear what inspired me and how exactly everything went. The next slide, please. The next one. I think Ritika did justice to this part. So for the background, this year, on the 12th of August, as Zambians, we went to the polls. And as I mentioned earlier, I got inspired to do a project on creating poems which would voice out on fairness, unity, and freedom during elections, because what we saw was that the previous government employed all sorts of draconian strategies to silence activists from critiquing it. The president, or rather the government, was always right, and no one could stand up to question in the way things were being done. So in this very year, we saw that there was a revamping of Repressive Public Order Act, which made it very difficult for activists to gather for any type of meetings or even protests. And there was also the introduction of a cyber law through the parliamentary bill. This law, which made it so difficult for those activists who use social media to get through to people, it made it difficult in such a way that every time we tried to speak about something that was going on in the country, it would be considered an insult, and it was taken seriously as a serious offense, and people were actually getting jail time due to the introduction of a cyber law. And so these laws, they brought fear into the life of activists, especially women who are already not enjoying or rightfully enjoying spaces to participate in, were now being thrown in a even tighter corner than before, because they already are not given enough space in social, political, or economic processes around the country. And so here is this law, and here is this Public Order Act. What next? So this project was birthed from everything that was going on in the country, this law, this order, this act. And then I decided that, okay, why don't we have something that is going to speak to the country in a creative way? And that's how my project was born. And so the project approach is centered on the use of artivism, which taps in the cultural diversity of people. We use art to speak to the heart, to speak to the soul. We tap into the intrinsic benefit of art, which is how people heal, how people get to tell their stories in the way that they feel is best. And so there was also the deliberate use of social media to facilitate this robust, inclusive campaign, and making sure it's non-partisan, it's apolitical. We only stood for a Zambian, not for a political party or any political leader. Next slide, please. Okay, so for the objectives, the first objective was to produce 5 minutes poetical creative videos on youth, peace participation, inclusion, and democracy concerning elections in Zambia. But the end result would be to encourage people to turn out in numbers when the day to vote came, and to make sure that young people were a huge number which participated in just recent ended elections. The second objective was to present action-oriented posters for the general citizenry, women, and youth, so that, of course, like I said, to get up to go to the polls come August 2021. And the third one was to have at least 5 women who are poets to participate so that we could have that gender balance. Next slide, please. And for the themes, we're resting on women participation in elections. Like I mentioned earlier, women were thrown even in a tighter corner when we saw everything, the way everything was progressing in the previous government. And another theme was voting itself. What is it and how do you vote? Also, youth and democracy, unity and peace in elections, democracy, and also good governance. The next slide. So the beginning of the project was with the Right Shop, and all the poets that later got on to produce work were selected. They were from the very Right Shop that they attended. Those were the successful participants, and they developed their pieces with the help of the Word Smash Poetry team. We were not only considering talent, but also gender balance and the content knowledge. What exactly did the poets have to offer that the rest of the people who were not selected were offering? Personally, I had a poem which projected how I want Zambia to be, or how I wanted Zambia to be after the 12th of August. What Zambia did I want to see? What did I want to see change? And there's a duet. If you look at my youth corner, when you look at the links, there's a duet which addressed violence dressed up as peace, and the importance of noticing that what you're voting for is peace, is violence, which is masked up or is masquerading as peace. And also there's a poem from Yemba which we'll play as we go on. It highlighted the role that women play in seeing democracy come to life. I like to say that at the center of change, there are youths being backed by women. But we should also remember that in the time of violence, the ones suffering the most are women who are busy trying to cover the children. And so this video, apart from the Youth Corner, you can find them on the Word Smash Poetry Movement Facebook page. All of them are there. Can I have the next slide, please? And as for the posters, these are the posters that I was talking about when I was talking about action-oriented ones, and they had key messaging. When you look at down after the Word Smash logo, on this poster, the poster on my left, it says this thing as a vote that doesn't matter. This was just a message which wanted to provoke somebody to realize that every vote counts. You might say, I being the only one not voting might not make a difference, but you're totally wrong. One vote can entire government. And when you look at two posters, when you look at the poster which is on my left, the key message right after the logo is there is no such thing as a vote that doesn't matter. This should this is a message which should encourage someone to realize that even one vote can swing the direction. It can swing the entire direction of an election. And when you look at the right, it says voting is as much an emotional act as it is intellectual. And your intellect, the know-how, you know what you're supposed to do as a citizen. Your emotions, how is everything that is going on around you moving you? Combining the two will bring up the whole your emotions to be steered in a direction where you want to show up at the polls and you want to cast your vote so that you can see the country that you desire to see. The next slide, please. You
actions speak
can go ahead and play the
but actions lie too. We try to paint a picture not so perfect, the colors carefully scripted, hoping it stays as we predicted. Speaking loudest only when we talk about feminism, remember, to never shy away from participating. Women, we are a harbor for peace in our nation. Remember, the seeds for success of every nation are best planted in women and children. Swish. Like a gentle breeze, we breathe sanity to an eruption and calm the hearts of many. In an intermission with notable submission, I envision a nation where a woman's voice is just as loud on political participation as it is on raising her babies. Our nature is peace. Let's patch together the pieces of our nation. See, woman, you, our country's hope for liberation. And did I mention, in your bosom, our children bloom. It is a state of confusion. In a state of confusion, your man will run to you. Records state that our participation in peace negotiation contributes to the quality and durability of peace agreements. Low levels of female participation represented in Zambia will undermine the quality of our democracy. Our beauty goes far beyond our looks, it's in our brains too. Mzinga Melu, a corporate trailblazer like Irene Mambelima, rest her soul, she set a standard for us all. In our curves, we set the flow of current to pass down to our children. Kandulu and Nalumango, a grace stands for how women can go. Actions speak louder than words, so let's take action to build our worlds.
Okay, thank you, and I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. It's a piece that I can always go back to because I believe in the power of women participation. And so, just to close up, for the end result, or what we would call successes, something that really, really made me proud is that young people turned up in numbers to vote. At least we got to see that majority of the voters were below 35 years of age. And regardless of how long it took on the queues, they stood and they casted their vote. So the numbers were there by the young people. And you can see from what happened right after we voted, we are now living under a new government. As Zambians, we're calling it a new dawn. We're talking about a new president, or rather a new government, which has changed even the language. We're talking about gender inclusiveness. We're talking about zero tolerance to violence or corruption, because we're talking about zero tolerance. All right, so we're talking about a president or a government that has changed the language, inclusivity, zero tolerance to corruption and violence. We're talking about innovation, even in the way ministries are now being structured. We just recently got a Ministry of Science and Technology, which is so futuristic, even in its name, the Ministry of Green Economy. We are looking at sustainable renewable energies as a country for the seeing that happening to us. So indeed, it is a new dawn, and I am proud to say that every young person who participated in this project from the beginning up to the end, we were just proud to see that the wind of change blew in our favor. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. And I know that I speak for myself and others at CIPE when we say that we're so proud to have supported your work and to have you be among the first cohort of our youth leaders. Again, I encourage the audience to check out the 10 poems that Vanessa helped produce in the lead up to Zambia's election. They are all posted in her Youth Leader Corner. If you have any questions for Vanessa and how she went about her project, I encourage you to post it in the Q&A section. Let me start by asking you one question that has come up, which is, Vanessa, how do you and the poets that you work with bring your art and poems to the attention of the general population? This advocacy that you're doing, this work that you're doing is so meaningful, and how do you ensure that your voices are heard? How do you ensure that people are hearing the words of these youth and are able to appreciate all of the art and the activism that you've spent so much time on?
Thank you very much, Ritika. So all the young people that are involved in these activism spaces, what we use mostly is social media. We're putting our work out there so that it can easily be accessed by every person. Okay, so what me and the young people who are in these activism spaces do is that we take advantage of social media. It has been the biggest tool that we have used to put out there to reach out, even in spaces where we are physically unavailable. And also, one way that we see that we're succeeding in putting our messages out there is we have started to partner with big civic society organizations and NGOs which are promoting what we're talking about. And so by existing in these spaces, most of the times when we look at the people that we're speaking to, the people attending those events would mostly be the government themselves and of course public. And we have even one slot for one poet to speak for 4 minutes. They will be getting the key messages across to those people who are supposed to hear what we're trying to say. And mostly those are government people, the people that we're crafting these messages for. So we have taken advantage of social media, and not only social media, these spaces where we know that our leaders mostly frequent. We go there and ask for spaces as young people to speak artistically to our causes. I think that answers the question, I hope.
Indeed, thank you. And another question that we've received is about the private sector. I know that you just spoke about opportunities for collaboration with civil society organizations to support your art and advocacy like this, but I was wondering if you might be able to shed some light on some ways in which the private sector could support this work. Have you come across any businesses or business associations or any private sector involvement in this type of activism? And if so, if not, how would you encourage the private sector to be involved in this work?
We are slowly trying to push in the private sector. And what we are trying to do is remind them that these are young people, young artists who are also trying to reap the economic benefits of their talent. And so in as much as we will speak for our causes and in as much as we will exist as activists, we can be very beneficial additions even in, let's say, your marketing departments. So some young people have gone on to partner with some private institutions where they've actually gotten jobs and they have taken over maybe social media pages or something. And then As for some companies, some private institutions which have been interested in our work, they have been helpful in the way that they might not directly fund us. Sometimes they give us a space to work on, and sometimes they just help us in one way or another, maybe to publicize the message, and also to just put it out there for people in the private sector who are listening and might be interested. We as young people are open to working with them so that we can always put the message out there for even bigger audiences.
Thank you, Vanessa. I don't see any other questions from the audience. Is there anything else that you would like to add in the last few minutes that we have with you?
Okay, so something that I would like to add on, apart, of course, on me being very grateful to CIPE for according me the opportunity to do this project, for capacitating me and each and every person who came on board to just voice out in a manner that we love to do. I'm super grateful, and I know that everyone in the team and also the poets are grateful. I would just like to say that I hope to see more spaces embrace young people and their art, because art is such a powerful tool, especially for any space that is trying to consider being democratic or is already saying they are democratic. I believe that where there is democracy, art can be a very powerful tool to drive that democracy to see its light of day. And so thank you very much to you, Ritika, to Leila, and everyone at CIPE.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to work with you and to get to know your work. And we look forward to continuing to see what more you do and what more your network in Zambia does in the coming days. Thank you. All right, everybody. We are a little bit ahead of schedule, so we'll be able to give you a few minutes back in your day. Thank you so very much for joining us for our Youth Leadership Conference. This was CIPE's inaugural conference of this kind, and it was the culmination of our Youth Leadership Program. So just to reiterate for those that joined a little bit later, the Youth Leadership Program is a new initiative at CIPE, and we selected 5 youth leaders who you heard from throughout the course of the conference to advance meaningful advocacy campaigns or research projects to create change in their communities. CIPE provided funding for each youth leader to conduct their projects, and we also published blogs from each of them on the CIPE website, which I would encourage you to look at to further promote some of the great work that they are doing. I also wanted to take this opportunity to let you know that we intend to renew the Youth Leadership Program next year. So applications will likely open in February 2022. Please keep an eye out for that and encourage young people in your networks to participate. And in terms of the conference today, just to recap, we heard from Hani Rosenbaum, who is the Executive Director of Business at OECD. She spoke about their Business for Youth campaign to identify best practices and programs among its global business network. And many of these recommendations that the Business at OECD program came up with are aimed to support youth resilience and integration into the labor market. And in addition, we also heard on a panel discussion from 3 different organizations in Indonesia, Serbia, and Ethiopia about how each individual and their organizations are dealing with youth challenges and how they encourage us to pursue multi-stakeholder collaboration in order to create sustainable solutions to many of these challenges and issues facing youth. And just like the Youth Leadership Program, we hope to have this conference again next year. And we look forward to hearing from different individuals that are doing some very innovative work. We are hoping that this conference today fostered dialogue and sparked ideas and encouraged some bold thinking about ways in which the private sector can meet the needs of today's youth. I just want to end by thanking some people who made this conference possible. The first person is Layla Zarifi, who was my right hand during this conference, and Pam Kelly-Louder, both from CIPE, who were absolutely instrumental in making sure that everything was ready and well executed today. I also wanted to thank Anna Kompanek, the Director of Global Programs, for her support throughout all of the youth work that we've been doing, and Mahir Sheikh, who is also on the Global Programs team, for his help in getting this conference together. Thank you to all of you as well that joined. We will make sure that the presentations from all of the speakers are available on the conference platform. We will also be sending out or posting clips of the different sessions so that if you missed any, you can go back and watch, and we'll make sure that that is available on the platform and disseminate it via email as well. So thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day.